Yeah, so as of right now, so what they're saying is that there was nothing in the contract about the ring size, that it was all down to negotiation afterwards, which is fairly normal.
Yeah.
And then Canelo's team came with a request for an 18-foot ring, which, I mean, is ridiculous. That's an amateur ring.
That's tiny, yeah.
So they went back. MTK went back with 24 with a 24-foot ring. That's what they wanted in an ideal world, which they didn't think they'd get, but whatever. So then they essentially what they're saying now is Canelo's team have said, look, it's 20 foot or on your bike, and they've said, well, we'll do 22 foot, but we're not doing 20 foot.
20 foot's about standard, I think. I think 22 is pretty big, if I'm right. 20 is about standard, and
I think
go on.
Essentially, what they're trying to say, they're trying to compare it to Dusseldorf.
What Fury?
Yeah, and they were talking about the fact that they were putting the cushion in the ring, trying to take Fury's legs away, essentially.
Right.
And their point is, well, look, we've already moved on so many things, to get this fight. We're coming to win, and his old man's words were, I'm not going to let my son fight in a 20-foot ring when you're taking away the main advantage of Billy Joe as a fighter, where it's going to have to move him and essentially, be a ghost at times in that ring. And I don't, 20 foot is unacceptable. It takes completely that away from him. Yeah. He also did say, I think he's watched a few clips of Billy Joe and doesn't fancy it. But
he's not the one trying to put out the fight. Episode 108 of Below the Belt. T, is this the first you've heard of all this? Is this the first you've heard of it?
I've not been following this at all, to be fair. The whole build-up, I've been following it, so I have no idea.
Yeah. Yours, Terry Dooley, who used to write for Boxing Monthly and he writes for Boxing Social now, he said, he tweeted earlier on, you are as good as you negotiate. Like, if you sign a contract to fight for a unification for 3 world titles and then come into the week of the fight going, oh, but I want the ring to be this size. Like, you do all that in negotiations when you're trying to get the fight. You decide what the ring is then. You decide who's going to walk second then. You don't bring it all up the week of the fight and then, go, oh, no, I don't want to, I want the ring I want or I'm going home. It's like, mate.
To be fair, though, I don't think that's what's happened.
Really?
I don't think that's what's happened.
Well, you think they've seen the ring they've seen the ring there at the arena?
I think what's happened is that there's A, B, and C bits and pieces about the fight which are to be negotiated, from now, ideally done and dusted by now, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like, obviously we've only heard one side of the story so far, but it sounds like that's one of those things that has just kind of been ongoing. Look, they're both promoted by the same guy as of right now, so there's an element of, not trust, but look, that'll get sorted. We'll sort that, no problem. And I think it's one of those things that has kind of then dragged on and on and on. They were talking about this last week, to be fair.
Right.
And then I think it's one of those things where they've come and just said, look, he'll move. Don't worry, you'll get your 22 foot. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think both of them are just saying, take it to the edge. I'm sure it'll get sorted. The zone for there's too much money on the line now. But yeah, it does sound like, to be fair, that all right, fine. If they're asking for a 24-foot ring, they haven't got it. But Canelo, for some reason, is now saying, look, 20 foot, and that's it. Then I think they're both just saying, well, let's see who's going to crack first, essentially. It doesn't sound like to me that like no one's really thought of it and then 18 foot, no, we want 20. I don't think that's what's happened. I think it's just one of those that's kind of dragged on and then it's now just coming out. They were talking about it last week though.
Yeah. T, do you think that perhaps Billy Joe Saunders is getting the itch? It's been a while since he's pulled out of a fight. He likes to pull out of a fight. Do you think maybe that's what it is? He's getting the itch again. He really wants to pull out of a big fight again.
Yeah, he's trying to find his nasal spray.
Yeah.
Get himself popped.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's all very weird. I'd imagine the fight is selling fairly well. So I've got to do a Chisora type tactic where you got to pull a stunt to sell the fight. So it is very odd behaviour. Alex nailed it with the Klitschko and Fury. You almost forgotten all about that with the softer ring. I think the one fight that springs to mind with a softer canvas was when Frampton got knocked down by that non-entity all those years ago.
Yeah,
because he just didn't know how and when to plant his feet. So at least he'll have a ready-made excuse, and he's beaten by the best boxer of the last 10 years. So maybe they're getting the narrative in early.
Maybe they've got, if you're being tin hat about it, maybe they have got, the kind of team have gone, right, well, do you know what, we can push it this way because, we've got X that can come in. No way are they going to sacrifice a Cinco de Mayo weekend for the sake of 2 foot, No. And if they do, it means that they've probably got, maybe they got a bum, maybe they got a can ready to come in. Canelo Smith too.
Yeah. Well,
Brian Rose.
Yeah.
Chris Eubank Jr. fought last weekend. He's fresh as a daisy. Maybe he'll step in.
Matthew Hatton looks in good form.
Yeah, he looks in pretty good shape. He's probably about 12 stone, isn't he?
But you know what I mean? But yeah, as of 2 hours ago, they obviously look, whether you think they're, why give up a thing of a lifetime for the sake of 2 foot, regardless of what you feel your strengths are, But regardless of what you feel about, Billy Joe, his old man, his management, they will walk away. They're not, that is the traveller mentality. They won't be, if they feel like they're being taken for mugs. They won't have it. They'll just walk away. He doesn't give a fuck about what people think about him.
No.
Us all going, well, where did that just completely? I mean, if this fight doesn't happen, he's not going to get it again. What's the point? He might as well just retire and that's it. And then his career really is pretty nothing. He beat an early doors Chris Eubank Jr. Has he done anything else other than the Lemieux fight, which was great? But that is it. All right, Andy Lee was a decent performance, obviously win the world title, but has he actually? He's more well known and will be remembered more for the stuff outside the ring than the stuff inside. So I'm sure it'll get sorted, but they will walk, and it'll be. We saw United and Liverpool get called off this weekend, and watching Sky kind of flap around for 2 hours, genuinely not knowing what to talk about or to do, was an utter joy. And there is some morbid curiosity to me about what would just seeing Matchroom and DAZN and Eddie trying to talk about this and figure it out. It's weird.
Yeah. I can't see Canelo backing down. Why should he? He's the biggest draw in the sport. He's the best fighter in the world. Billy Joe Saunders is a fucking no mark compared to him, to be honest.
There is a belt there, though.
There is a belt there, but
there's a job to be done.
There is a job to be done, and I think you're right. I think it will happen. Let's assume it is going to happen because it just all sounds like fun and games and stupid fuckeries, to be honest. Let's assume it will happen, T. Give it a percentage. How much percent of a chance does Billy Joe Saunders have?
1.
1%.
That's not because Saunders is bad or anything. I just think that Canelo is, as I said earlier, is the best fighter of the last 10 years, and he's flawless. And Zenon is a bit of a Saunders fanboy, and Saunders is awkward. Maybe he'll sneak a few rounds here and there, but he's not going to knock out Canelo. Canelo will never ever lose a fight on points. So, by that logic, he has a 1% chance.
Yeah.
Do you not think it's his? Do you think it's his biggest test since becoming, as dominant as he's been?
We thought Callum Smith was that, didn't we?
No.
So I guess he's probably on a par with Callum Smith, I suppose. But if you're not English, then it's not a test because only English people rate the pair of them. So yeah, it's probably the most intriguing fight he's had for a while.
I don't. See, I didn't think so with Smith. I think if you go I don't think any of us really thought that Smith was going to be too much of a problem. I think so. I think Billy Joe would give him, and I'm not a massive Billy Joe fan, but it's certainly the biggest test. Obviously Golovkin is different, but other than that, really since he's become the man, this is a fight that I think needs to be seen in terms of obviously there's a belt there, but also I do think out of the belt holders it's who's going to give him, at least make him work harder, because say there is a 24-foot ring, say it's a big ring, right? And if Billy Joe can be at his Lemieux best and using that space as obvious, which is clearly a huge deal to them, it would be nice to be able to see Canelo deal with that and maybe not have it all his own way and struggle maybe for 3-4 rounds before he kind of figured out what to do. I'd like to watch that. I fully anticipate him figuring it out and getting a job done quite handily, but I'd like to see him figure it out.
Yeah. I think you're right, Al. I think Saunders' style is probably more difficult for Canelo to work out than Callum Smith's was. You know what Callum Smith's going to do. He's not going to be hard to find, whereas Saunders he's probably going to get on his bike, isn't he, a bit, and he's just going to try and hit and move. He's obviously prepared for that, Canelo. He's boxed Erislandy Lara. There was talk of Mayweather being in comparison. It's not a comparison because Mayweather walked him down that night, and it was a long time ago, 8 years ago now. So I think you're right. I think it is the more interesting style, but it's just about, similar to Callum Smith, has Saunders had the fights to prepare for a fight of this magnitude? And I suppose we'll find out. On the night itself, really. Fucking lost my train of thought now.
Have I ruined the running order?
No, not at all.
I think you're right. He is a lot more awkward than Callum Smith. But I guess it was kind of thought that Callum Smith might have had the size to, get rid of Canelo's advantages, but Canelo just found another way to win. Canelo always finds a way to win, and I think Saunders will have pockets of good periods in the fight. I think he'll get figured out just like everyone else. But it was I think it was Crawford who said that Canelo struggles with boxers, so this would be a test of that. Did you see? I think I put the Eubank Facebook post. He probably put it on Twitter as well in the group. He's put 10 grand on Saunders to get knocked out. I think if Saunders did get knocked out, I think I probably run down my street and my shirt over my head like Aguero did at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, you're not gonna do what Eddie's always telling you to support the Brits. Get behind them, T. Get behind them. Don't be such a sitting in your mum's flat in your pants. You get behind the Brit.
Have you got your colours nailed to the mast now?
What do you mean?
Are you back in the Brit?
I don't care. Patriotism makes me want to vomit. So
Same.
that's not what this is. I'm intrigued because I genuinely do think that Billy Joe can ask Canelo questions that perhaps he's not been asked in a little while. That doesn't mean to say that I think that he can't answer them. I think he'll answer them. But as a boxing fan, that's a fight that I want to see. That's two relatively contrasting styles. That answers all right, maybe a small, but it answers a question. And really, when you look at it, really, Billy Joe has had obviously so many stops and starts within his career, and he's gone over to Matchroom, and he's obviously gone over to Matchroom to be able to be delivered this fight, this or Golovkin.
Yeah,
and he's been delivered it. So all of the bits in between about like moaning about Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, the fact that they're more for Canelo than they are for him. Well, yeah, obviously. You've only been there 10 minutes, and Canelo's the biggest draw in the world. Of course, he might have a little bit more attention than you, and you've refused to do any media really in the last 2 weeks. So what do you expect? And so part of me is with you guys, and it does feel a bit like, well, he's just looking for something to have a bitch and a moan about. But maybe he needs that. Maybe he needs the whole kind of us against the world type mentality to really be up for it. It's just, only this sport could we have the last 2 weeks that we've had.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it's for numbers or whether it's just because the personalities in this game are such. Talking about leaving the bubble because we're not walking second, and now this. It's just. It's part of why I hate and love this sport in equal measure.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like I wouldn't want anyone listening to this to ever think we don't admire boxers and we don't admire fighters, and but
of course not.
In one breath, it's I'll fight him in his back garden, and in the next minute, it's I'm going home if I don't walk second. It's only in boxing, like you said, Al. It's a strange kind of thing, really. Yeah, and I think what you said is right about Eddie Hearn. He's got a shiny new toy, isn't he, Eddie? He's got a shiny new toy. He's got $1 Million Man action figure. He doesn't want the fucking Macho Man one anymore. He's got $1 Million Man with the green trunks. He's like, oh yeah, this is wicked. He's, Billy Joe, who's Billy Joe Saunders, who's, pulled out. But it's just weird. But
then saying that, you've also had, again, Billy Joe had a bit of a social media, mishap not so long ago, and Eddie Hearn was there, backed him when it could have been quite easily to, he didn't have to. So yeah, look, it's weird. It is weird. It was a weird. I was surprised when Billy Joe signed with Matchroom in the first place, to be honest, because I was just like, well, that's not going to work. You've dropped O'Hara Davis for some of the thing for what he said.
Yeah,
and just signed someone who's done 5, 10, 15 times more. Look, life makes hypocrites of us all, but
yeah,
you got to draw the line somewhere, surely.
Yeah.
The thing is that if Saunders wins by knockout, yeah, I'll still be celebrating because I always find a reason to hate a boxer, and the fact Canelo keeps saying that if I fought Mayweather now, I'd beat him. Well, if Mayweather fought you in his fucking prime before his hands got fucked at 135 pounds, he'd wipe the floor with you. So turn it in. I don't expect Canelo to say anything else. I mean, he's a warrior, he's a boxer. I'd expect him to say that he could beat Mayweather, but this kind of irked me a bit. And Saunders is a colossal bellend, and it would be nice to see him get knocked out. I mean, the social media faux pas he's committing, it's not like I don't know, someone making a bit of an inappropriate joke. He's just been really, really horrible. It's not like it's not even like an Alan Sugar situation where he just doesn't know any better. It's just old and senile. He knows what he's doing. I mean, what was the one where he's got that drug addict on the street and is offering her money? Don't know if it was. Yeah. I mean,
nasty.
And then there's a whole Eubank Jr. build up. But it was just like rampant homophobia. I mean, look, we're no snowflakes. We know what boxing is, but
yeah,
he doesn't have many redeeming features. Billy Joe Saunders, and the only thing he shares is that we were born in the same country. That's about all. I mean, he supports Arsenal as well, so fuck it all. Even if he was a nice guy, I wouldn't mind seeing him twitch on the canvas for that alone. Let alone everything else.
Yeah.
I want it known that I do not hate any boxers. Apart from Carl Froch in his Groves era.
I'm trying to think if I actually properly I don't hate any boxers. There's boxers that annoy me, but I don't. It's not like so. For example, if I see an Arsenal badge, my hackles are up straight away.
Right.
I don't feel that scene. I think of a boxer whose face makes me feel like I've seen an Arsenal badge.
You cut out then. I'm assuming you talked about James DeGale, and yet you fanboyed over him with your little flags.
What flag is that?
I don't know. I just made it up. I just had a little image of you with 2 little flags.
Yeah, the girl and
chunky.
yeah, phone finger. The girl and Audley Harrison are both gooners, but they're from the end, so I kind of
Yeah.
tried to overlook that. Harrison was just Harrison is hopeless, and Big L, well, he's a bit more of a slightly more successful Billy Joe Saunders, I'd say.
Yeah, I back in my heyday of hating boxers, it was Tony Bellew and Carl Froch. I despised both of them, but now it's just
Weird
like
Tony Bellew.
Yeah,
Bellew was a weird one because on the one hand he used to drive me nuts, but on the other hand I used to be like, do you know what? Fucking play, man. Look at this, you know, and you forget about his ABA career really and stuff like that because you know he obviously had his stuff with Stevenson and then you know the stuff with with Cleverly, you know, then Cleverly 2 fight was crap, and then it was like, oh, he's a pay-per-view fighter now, and I'm like, oh, shut up. But you know, he talked stuff, and he did it, and he never backed down out of stuff. It was a weird one, Barry. I wanted to hate him, but secretly I didn't. Like on the outside, I was like, yeah, fuck that guy, but secretly, like inside, I was like, yeah, come on, Tone.
We saw the U6 fight. That's enough for me. We saw that in the flesh.
Yeah. Yes, we did. Yeah, and do you know what? All the Boxing Monthly guys, they all like Belly. They all say he's a really, really nice guy. And his fantasy football team has got a GOAT name. I don't think I can repeat it on the podcast, but I'll tell you guys afterwards.
And he is a nice guy. He was he gave us he gave us a couple of our interviews that we've had whenever we've seen him at shows and stuff. And he's came over and taught. I don't think I've met anyone that. I don't think I've probably only met one fighter where I've talked to and thought, yeah, you're a bit of a knob, aren't you? Which obviously I will not reveal. But
if this pod ever goes to Patreon, this is the sort of stuff that will be on Patreon.
Yeah.
I would just say that from now.
That is true. There's only one where I've genuinely walked away and thought, oh, fuck off, mate. The rest have all been lovely.
Almost back my beer up. I'm a cow back in the room.
Who was the fighter? Who was the fighter?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, you're going to say. I'm going to say.
No, I can't say. I'll tell you who the nicest was, though. Who the nicest is, who always is Charlie Edwards.
Yeah. Charlie,
and
he's a lovely guy.
I'm sure we'll talk about Sonny in a minute, but Sonny is also a very lovely chap.
Yeah. Let's quickly do predictions. Let's quickly do predictions for Canelo Saunders, and then we'll quickly talk about Sonny Edwards.
I will go. I think. I'll go Canelo to stop him in the 9th round.
Interesting. T.
Wide points win for Canelo, unanimous.
Do you think there's a chance, T, perhaps that Saunders wins like 10 of 12 rounds, and then the judges score it 120, 106 to Canelo 3 times?
I can absolutely see that. I mean, as I said at the top, Canelo's got the judges in his pocket, man. I mean, there'll be at
Texas as well. Texas is fucking hell raw.
It's going to be at least one really, really dodgy card of the 3, at least. Even if Canelo wins, I don't know, 117, 111, don't know if that's even a valid score. Someone will probably score at 120, 108. Someone will, because there's always just be one random score of the 3. Always is.
Yeah.
Do you want some breaking news?
Go on.
Billy Joe Saunders has not turned up for the head-to-head.
Oh, God, he is playing the game, isn't he? He is playing the game. Oh, my God, imagine he pulls out of it. Fuck me, what? Oh, my God. Do you know, you wouldn't put it past him. He loves pulling out of a fight. It's just mental. It's mental. I'm going to pick Canelo by stoppage as well. I'm going to say round 11.
Okay.
Yeah. So did you watch Sonny Edwards then?
I did watch Sonny, yeah.
The scores were pretty close, weren't they? Considering for what it was.
I thought Sonny was absolutely fantastic. I don't think I thought he moved him around brilliantly. You know, he doesn't carry any power. We know that. But it was just a perfectly executed game plan of boxing. and people talk about, oh, he's a boxer or he's a brawler or whatever. A boxer is someone who can carry out tactics. There's different types of boxers. Like you can be a boxer on the front foot. You can be a boxer on the back. But people automatically think that, oh yeah, he's a good boxer. Automatically think of someone being on the back foot and kind of just and not running, but do you know what I mean in terms of moving people around. That's not always the case, and I think I thought Sonny Edwards did a masterful job of in between the two. I thought it was great, and he's it's not been an easy route for him in terms of getting there. He's talked openly about the pure amount of some of the stick he gets online is mental. Like he's not really a massively out. He's in a division that few people really massively pay attention to anyway, and he's not the most out. He's not outlandish in terms of social media and that sort of. But he gets so much stick just because of his appearance. Yeah, he's talked about about his teeth, for example, and like saying he refused to have braces because he wouldn't have been able to box for 2 years. So he's like, well, I'll just take people taking a piss out of me and I'll sort that out later. And it is stuff like that. I warn to people like that. I love that shit. I'm a very good looking man. I don't have to worry about any of this shit. So when I hear other people have to deal with horrible stuff, it makes me sad.
I always like people that can laugh at themselves.
Yes.
I think if you're gonna take the piss out of somebody else, you've got to be able to laugh at yourself. And with Sonny Edwards, I was tweeting off below the belt one day, and he was doing punditry, and the suit he was wearing looked fucking massive.
Oh, yeah.
And I tweeted him and said, "Borrowed your dad's suit." and you know what? He was quick as a flash. He replied straight away, and it was all good, like fun and games. Like he does come across really, really well. Did you see the fight, T?
No, I don't have access to BT on the night it was fighting, so I didn't see it. But no, it seems a nice bloke as his brother. But I do think less of people who read the book 48 Laws of Power and tweet those sort of shitty hustle culture quotes. So not fully hate, but he's close to being on the list. But no, a good win for him. Another title holder for the Brits. I don't know if you know off the top of your head how many is it now? Because it was quite low a few months ago, wasn't it?
6 sounds right. 6 sounds right. Yeah.
Could be pretty.
On a side note, right? On a quick side note of that, there was a tweet that went out by I can't remember. I've not seen him before, but it's an account called Really Nice Derek, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But tweeted the purses for 29th weekend of 29th the 1st of May, right? So, who knows where it's true or not, but it did make me laugh. So they reckon Verlaine got 55 grand, Edwards got 35.5 grand, and they said that Campbell Hatton got 722 grand.
22,000.
And Campbell Hatton's reply said, "Whoever's got my 720 grand can have it back. My Fiesta's needed a new bumper for 3 years." But you think about really, and say that was a typo. Say it was meant to be, I don't know, 72. I don't know, yeah. Right. And you look at what Edwards would have got, so 35 grand for being, it was a mandatory challenger, wasn't it? So mandatory challenger for a world title. And then they reckon that Katie Taylor got 34 grand for a fight against HS.
I hate to burst your bubble, but this guy, Really Nice Derek, is known for making this shit up.
Yeah, I know, but I know that.
Oh, sorry, but you said I don't know if it's sure or not. You said
no.
Well, that's a Shield got involved, didn't she?
Did you see the thing that he did around the viewing figures for Tommy Fury the other week?
No.
He said like Tommy Fury's fight with the fucking, I don't know, the random geezer got like 5 million viewers. And then Tyson Fury tweeted like, "Yeah, go on, Tommy." Like, he thought he was real, but this guy, Really Nice Derek, he's fucking brilliant. He gets like people biting off this stuff that he just pulls out of the sky. It's fucking brilliant. And I think that's what kind of there was some talk of like the pretend viewership that this guy Derek made up is half what got Jake Paul to talk to Tommy Fury.
Yeah.
So
no, but like I said, good on Sonny Edwards. Like I said, it's to do anything in that division to make some money for yourself. You've got to be winning world titles. And he's done that now. And yeah, it's let's see what moves on for him. But yeah, there was a lot of stick. I felt people gave him a fair amount of stick for the performance, saying that Blaine had was really poor performance. It didn't strike me as that. Granted, I'd not seen a lot of him, but it didn't strike me like that. It struck me that Sonny moved and boxed to a plan and did it very well.
And it was weird, the cards as well, because like one card was like, I said it was close. That's because one was like 7-5 and the other was 12-0. Like, and then there was one in the middle that was like 9-3. I thought he fucking boxed his ears off. I thought he boxed brilliantly. Edward.
I had it 9-3.
That I did as well. Yeah, I had it as well. I wasn't tightly paying attention, full disclosure, but I was watching. I was thinking he's fucking winning this all. Miffelane came on quite well late on, but by then it was far too late. And Frank Warren needed that. He fucking needed that because he's had a lot of fighters lose lately. Dubois lost twice now. He's had a couple of his, obviously, Felix Cash beat Denzel Bentley the other week as well. Like, he needed that, Frank, big time. I don't think a flyweight world champion is going to put your kids through college, but it fucking is something.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the box office show, where Campbell Hatton obviously boxed, making £700,000. It was well earned as well. Fucking brilliant. What did we think, T, about the show overall?
I thought it was really good. Kind of telling Cal throughout the night that I'm in a group chat with a bunch of my old friends and not really massively into boxing. One of them said Ebony Bridges would beat Katie Taylor, for example. So that's the levels that we're talking about here. And they said it was boring, but I liked it. I mean, Eubank Jr. I mean, there's one point in the second round where he probably would have gotten Marcus Morrison out of there, but wanted to get rounds in. It was a glorified spar, but I was okay. I was absolutely okay with that. I enjoyed the night overall. Fair play to Eddie. I just couldn't help thinking that the three of us would have been there if it wasn't for lockdown. Just to see Bivol. I mean, he wasn't amazing by any stretch, but I'd love to have seen him in the flesh. Just to say that I'd seen him.
I think it was one of those shows that kind of hit the ground in between the two types of fans that would have watched it. Perhaps people such as us who have certain interests in, look, we all love Eubank, and we're all interested in Bivol. But 2012 me wouldn't have been interested. I probably would have been interested in Eubank, but I wouldn't have been interested in Bivol. I would have been interested in Katie Taylor. So I think it hit them up at all because listening the next day, even on listening, I just had TalkSport on in the background whilst I was working, and they're talking about Chisora and Parker being like a proper bore fest. I didn't think it was. It wasn't amazing to watch, but it was intriguing and it was interesting to watch. And that was the same with Eubank. But we were interested in that fight for Eubank because we're Eubank fans. So we know what we've seen before, and we know that he's with a new trainer, someone like Roy Jones. And if you're not going to get rounds in under a trainer like Roy Jones to work on what you've been working on, then really, what is the point? I thought Marcus Morrison was great. I thought he put up a fantastic performance. Never stopped trying to win the fight. Was a bit. It was a bit like holding a. Can we say midget these days? But it was a bit like holding a midget. With your hand out on his forehead whilst he's swinging at you. But that's fine. That's okay. That's fine. Yeah. And I've got the fear now. This is a boxing pod.
No one's listening. Don't worry about it.
They're not PC.
No, I thought it was a really good show. It's not a box office. It's not a box office show, and it still sticks in my craw that it was. But it's also now things have changed where we're paying. You don't pay for the main event anymore. I think that is what Matchroom have changed. In the psyche of the majority of people that will buy this, but bought this card last night. They were saying it did similar numbers to White Povetkin 2. So you're paying for a night of entertainment. It pisses me off that there's adverts in there, but it's just one of those things. But as a show overall, if you take the box office and all that bollocks out of it, as a show overall, I sat and watched it from 6:30 onwards and enjoyed it. So that's all I ask for stuff, because I don't pay for it anyway. So
yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I wasn't going to outright say that, but as soon as you start,
because I get my dad to pay the box office. That's what I mean.
Yeah. I'm with you. And let's stick with Eubank, because like you said, like you both said, we're kind of Eubank season ticket holders, aren't we? We go to as many of his fights as we can, really, other than the one in Dubai.
I put my jacket on as well for it. I put my next gen jacket on for it.
And then if he would have lost, you'd have taken it off and gone outside and looked for someone, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You people at home, you've not seen the sight of Alex taking his jacket off when he's got the ump. It really is a sight to behold.
Yeah, well,
one of the best moments of my life, seeing that.
Don't annoy me. You'll get the bold bull running out. But no, Eubank. What did you think, Cad? Did you think you saw anything from Eubank that we've not seen before?
Yeah. I was just about to ask the same with you. I think he was very good at picking his shots and getting back out again. And he used his jab a bit better. They said, Paul Smith said on the DAZN comms that Eubank had a really good jab. I never thought of Eubank as a jabber like that. And I remember when he boxed Spike O'Sullivan, and he was trying to lead with a jab like that, but Spike O'Sullivan was half out boxing him until he just started going into what was like natural for him, which is just fucking steaming in and piling uppercuts and trying to get Spike O'Sullivan out of there. But he did look like an improved fighter. It was against Marcus Morrison. Marcus Morrison's not on his level, but he looked like a guy that hadn't been wasting his time the last 18 months. You know, you always say when a fighter's, a lot of the time a fight will be not boxing for 18 months, and I'll say, they've been fucking on the couch for 18 months. And that's not, that about Eubank anyway. The guy's always training. I remember after the Gross fight, he was posted a video of him back in the gym, fucking training again. So he's not wasted his time. I'm not sold on Roy Jones Jr. as a trainer, but you could see little improvements, and you could see Eubank listening to him. You could see him really, really paying attention to what he was saying, and that's never happened in his entire career. So, yeah, I liked what I saw. What did you think, T?
Yeah, as I said it now, really bad memory, but his shot selection was a lot better, because normally just go to the uppercut all the time.
Yeah.
It's like someone playing the arcade and just bashing the same button over and over again. So it was like watching Eubank just trying to finish someone off with the same old shots. He did move away. I think with this fight, we're just trying stuff out. That's probably why he carried Marcus Morrison for 8 of those 10 rounds. And Marcus Morrison showed good heart. I don't think he's done himself any harm. He's spoken about on commentary that he lost to Tyan Booth and a couple other people who should really have beaten. But maybe this fight will refocus him. He broke his nose, I think, in the second round, and he fought on for 8 rounds in spite of that. So fair play to Marcus Morrison. And there's always a good little story with the undercard, because it was always all about Eubank coming back to fight someone who is much better than. But even Marcus Morrison's kind of shown that, he could be worth booking for bigger shows. He might upset a few people. So, all in all, the fight came out how everyone wanted it. I mean, Marcus Morrison got something out of it, and Eubank Jr. got the rounds in.
It was Morrison's FA Cup final, wasn't it? It was the fight. And if he wins that fight or puts on a good performance, then he'll get more fights. So fair play to Morrison. Hopefully, like T said, he comes again and he boxes somebody at a good level, and can maybe, if he keeps plugging away, he might get a British title level, and he might get a crack at that once Felix Cash moves on. Afterwards, Keller Sauerland was saying, Eubank in the summer, want to see him back out again in the summer. What do you think? What would you like to see next for our mate Chris?
They've been very vocal with the fact that they've got a plan for Eubank, that the destination is Golovkin. That would be great. We all want to see Eubank in big fights. Because he's 29. and now's the time. Now's the time to make a mark on the sport in terms of the type of fighter that he is. You know, we know he can deal with all the questions about, you know, him versus the old man. What type of fighter is he? You know, can he do this? Can he do that? We know he's got a decent chin. We know he's got a huge amount of heart. We know that what his limitations have been in terms of boxing ability, perhaps against someone who has one or two very strong attributes. He couldn't deal with George Groves' jab, for example. You know, it's that type of stuff that we need to see now, and he needs to go into these big fights, and he'll have with the name, and you know, Sky will all, and particularly now, particularly if Matchroom start to disappear, you know, perhaps even more of that money will float from Sky, will float towards someone like Eubank, who is with someone like Sauerland, where they can make these fights, you know, not easier, but you know, there's nothing stopping them. You know, there's no other hurdles, you know, in terms of dates and that type of stuff. If Matchroom do go, you know, I think you might end up seeing, you know, Eubank become a bit of a champion of Sky, and that might help get that Golovkin fight. And that's what I want for him. I'd like him to win a proper world title. You know, who's the other middleweight world champion is what's his name?
So you've got Charlo's the WBC, Golovkin's IBF, Murata's WBA, Andrade is the WBO. Yeah, Chris Eubank is ranked number 1 with a WBA.
Yeah, so Murata makes sense, doesn't it? So you know, I'd like to see him win a world title. You know, if he can win the WBA, then yeah, you know, really there shouldn't be anything stopping him getting some of those other fights. And I'd like to see him now have 2 or 3 proper fights, and then just call it a day. You know, call it a day at 30, 31. You know, yeah, I'm a big Eubank fan. I want him. I want to be able to look back at his career at the end of it and not look back at it like we do with Billy Joe Saunders' career. Because if Eubank was to end up, you know, kind of not quite making it and retiring in 18 months, 2 years time, really, what's he done? You know, he's beat a shot James DeGale, if we're honest. And he had a bit of a highlight reel knockout against Yildirim. Anything else? Not really.
No, there's not too much for him there, really. There is a turd in the punch bowl, where that Erislandy Lara won the WBA regular belt the other night in a round, beating a guy called Cornflake, who had a chin like a cornflake. Knockout. It was a good knockout. It was a good knockout. Do you like a bit of Lara?
Particularly. Cuban old school where he's not really a knockout artist, he just kind of frustrates people. Yeah. He'll always have it in his epitaph that he beat Canelo, even though the judges thought otherwise. I'm surprised he's still fighting when he's one of those guys that seems to have been around forever. I don't see people
38 years old.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me. It's a bit like Joel Casamayor. He seemed like he was 38 for his entire career. Yeah, I don't think, unless Lara somehow gets a belt, I don't think anyone's going to want to fight him, so long will it remain. Is he at 154 still?
No, Lara, that's what I'm saying. Lara won the regular title at 160 middleweight the other night. And that's kind of, that may scupper Eubank's plans to fight Murata. So maybe he fights Lara.
Oh, I wouldn't want to see that. That'd be awful. Be all wrong for Eubank. One thing I'm going to say that you're probably going to say next is that I think the fight that stole the show was Katie Taylor and Natasha Jonas.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Go on.
No, it's a great advert for women's boxing. They're both warriors. They both left it all in the ring, and it was high level. It's a high skill level. As you know, women's boxing is kind of much maligned in some parts of the game, but these are 2 high level amateurs, high level pros, and as I said, they both walk out. They both can walk out of the ring with saying that, you know, they gave it their all. And you know, if we were there as paying punters, we would have loved it as well. It's just a shame that it wasn't in front of a crowd, really.
It was brilliant. I loved every fucking second of it. It was great. You know, you can have all the conversations you want about 3 minutes rounds and 12 rounds, blah blah blah, whatever, right? But if you just take it on face value in terms of entertainment and a genuine, honest fight between two very talented boxers, it was great. I tweeted, I said I felt like waking up my 4-year-old and saying, "Watch this," or making her watch it over breakfast. And it was great. And you talk about it like a good advert for women's boxing. It was a good advert for boxing in general.
So we were talking about, I think Howie was talking about Katie Taylor and Natasha Jonas. I love Natasha Jonas. I think she's so good. And considering the way she lost not too long ago, and for her to come back, push Terry Harper to the limit, I thought she won that fight, and a lot of people thought she won that fight. And then to push Katie Taylor to the limit as well, who's arguably I think she's the best fighter in the world. I think she's better than Clarissa Shields pound for pound. Fair play to Jonas. The way she's come back has been absolutely amazing. And you were just saying about Chris Eubank winning a world title. I'd love for Natasha Jonas to win a world title.
Do you know my only feeling, and I don't mean this as a massive as any real type of disrespect against Joe Gallagher, but you can spot Joe Gallagher fighters from an absolute mile off, right? It's high hands, it's head from side to side, and it's a relatively reserved performance until later on, right? Or at least it's done in patches, right? And I do feel like if she'd have gone, if she'd been a bit more adventurous at times, I think it would have, particularly making sure she was still adventurous later on. Look, it's very easy to say when Katie Taylor suddenly starts building up a head of steam like she did from kind of round 7 onwards. Yeah. It's easy to say, if you kind of match it, but it just felt like she couldn't really match that, or wasn't matching it in terms of aggressiveness, perhaps until the last round, obviously. But I don't know. I'd like to have seen how she would have done with a slightly more aggressive approach at times. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But either way, it was a great performance. And Katie Taylor is role model is used too easy in life, I feel. But in terms of what she's done, and Natasha Jonas, for someone who has a daughter and for someone who is interested in boxing, those two I'd like to sit them down and afterwards, and the way they speak afterwards, and the way they carry themselves, that is those are two women that I would like my daughter to watch and to learn from, in terms of those types of things. It was really good to see. I thought it was great, and really that should be, if we're going to move forward with women's boxing becoming far more mainstream, how much better would that be to just be a headline Saturday night fight night? I say free to air, but on Standard Sky, that's the type of stuff that if they're serious about, of pushing that, not using it as pay-per-view fodder to bump up, to thicken out the card, to make that the main attraction and go for it. Maybe and we see it again, or Natasha Jonas's next fight is a headline on a Saturday night fight night, with almost like a next gen card underneath it. I don't know. Those are the type of things that we need to see, really.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this fight was you spoke about how both fighters carried themselves. Only a few weeks ago, we had Ebony Bridges, who was in all sorts of headlines. It's kind of a bit of a contrast, but all four, Courtney as well, all four good pros. They left it all in the ring, and both fights were a good advert for boxing and women's boxing as well. So
yeah,
very good to see.
I have no issue with. Sorry, T, go on.
No. I mean, I think that Jonas could have been a bit more aggressive, but it's one of those fights that stole the show. It's just a shame, as I said before, that it wasn't in front of a crowd to cheer them both on. Maybe with a crowd, but I pushed Jonas on a bit more because it was in Manchester, which is nearer to Jonas's gaff than Taylor's.
Yeah, a lot was made of Bridges and stuff, and obviously the antics and stuff before the fight and stuff. But that was something I thought was a good thing as well. I thought, when her and Courtney were talking about, weighing in lingerie and all this type of stuff, that's fine. I want women to push that, because it's almost like, it pushes that in the face of, it shouldn't be it, because they're boxers, they should be more manly, or it's taken away from the professionalism of the sport, or the fact you're not really here to win, you're just here for Instagram. Bollocks! It doesn't, because it's evident that isn't the case, because we saw the fight and we saw the performance that they then put in, and the struggle that they go through training, and the punishment that they put themselves through the fight as well. Why can't you have both? It's and boxing as a whole, in terms of us as a fan base, are probably relatively patriarchal, and I hope there's more of that from women's boxing. I hope there's more of that, the fact, because it makes you ask questions of someone coming into the ring, or coming in, or performing in that way before the fight, and then performing the way they do in the ring, because it proves you can do both. You can be both.
It shows that women's boxing is not a monolith where people have to be like Katie Taylor and played football for her country, I believe. Top boxer and all the rest of it. Nice person. It's good to have a bit of a heel as well. There's not just one way to promote yourself. Katie Taylor gets there by ability, but maybe not everyone in the game has got that. And if they've got to find different ways in which to promote themselves, then fair fucks to them.
100%. I had a mini rant about the whole Ebony Bridges thing before the fight, so I don't have too much to say really on it, just because I've already kind of said it. But I don't think there should be a doubt in anybody's mind that Ebony Bridges or Shannon Courtney are not proper fighters, because you saw them go to war that night, and they put on a brilliant fight. And I'd love to see them do it again, or I'd love to see Bridges win a world title for herself, so they could unify, because that was a cracking fight. It was really good. And yeah, if Ebony Bridges or any other woman wants to use her body or her sexuality to make a pound note, fucking fair play to them. Crack on. I don't care. And I think it's all a bit weird, really, that people try to police women's fucking bodies. It's just weird. But anyway, it was a good fight.
It goes both ways, though, because I really like Shannon Courtney, and if she wants to talk to me, then that's fine as well.
Well, yeah, that's fine. And she'd be punching, pardon the pun, but she'd be punching about it. But like I said on my mini rant, I'm going to repeat myself now. And that fucking Anthony Joshua advert came on again the other day. The one where he's covered in baby oil and he's got the towel and he holds his hands up and the towel's still there. That fucking Lynx advert. Men do it. Fucking Anthony Joshua does it. Fucking Paulie Malignaggi. I've just got that flashback. Do you remember when Paulie Malignaggi weighed in with the fucking elephant in front of his wiener? Do you remember that?
I could believe it.
Yeah.
I can imagine him doing that.
And we've all done that with a towel. When Joshua drops the towel and then it doesn't drop, it just we know what he's saying. It's hanging on his massive erect penis. I've done that in front of the mirror to see if it'll work, and it did, barely, but it did.
He's like squeezing, like, come on.
Yeah, I was like leaning forward like that.
Yeah,
just with my hips out. Catch it like a hoopla.
Oh, fuck's sake. Oh, God. Yeah, so anyway, fair play to him. What else was there? I was a little bit... Chisora. Let's talk about the main event. I thought Parker won.
Yes, so did I. Yeah,
I thought Parker won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought Parker won. I thought he won. Chisora got the knockdown. Yeah, it was narrow. Like it was actually quite funny to me that Parker put it in the contract that he had to have a New Zealand judge, and then the New Zealand judge proper sorted him out with a 116, 111 card. I don't know why it was funny to me, because normally that sort of thing would make me really mad. But I think because it was a Matchroom show, and it's always the British judges fucking over the overseas fighter, it was actually quite funny to me that, as I touched on at the start of the podcast, you are as good as you negotiate. And Parker negotiated himself a good deal where he probably got paid a good amount of money. I don't know if nice guy Derek, really nice Derek, whatever his fucking name is, he probably got it right, probably got a few $100,000 for it. And he made sure he had one of his judges there because he didn't want to get fucked over by Steve Gray or Bob Williams or Ian John Lewis. Fair play to him. But I agree with you, Al. I actually thought it was a pretty intriguing fight. I thought it actually wasn't bad.
It wasn't. It wasn't massively enjoyable to watch. You know, I had a few people saying, "Oh, this is a great fight. This is." I was like, "This is not." I mean, the first look, he's caught Parker cold in the first 7 seconds, and everyone's like, "What the hell?" But after that, I felt, it depends on what you like, really. As the fight got on, Parker became more and more from the fourth or fifth round onward. Parker was, starting to use his jab more, and I felt was relatively comfortable. Had little pockets of perhaps not moving his feet quite as well, and getting kind of caught in positions against the ropes and in corners that he didn't want to be in, and then had to deal with a little bit of body work and then try and get out. It didn't make him look good at times. I'm not criticizing Chisora in any way, because Chisora is what he is, and continues to keep going. Obviously, his fitness is beyond, is great. For the age that he is and the miles that he's got on the clock, brilliant. But I came at the end of it, and I had Parker by 2 rounds by the end, and I was a little surprised at the amount of Rob. Even Dillian White coming out saying like absolute robbery. Like, I've got no respect for Chisora, but he's got job there, and I was a bit like, wow, I don't see that really. But look, that's it was narrow. It wasn't wide either way, that's for sure.
Yeah. How did you have it, T? What was your feeling on the night after the fight?
I thought Parker won. Got my wires crossed a little bit there. But people calling it a robbery. If you call a close boxing match a robbery, you need to fuck off and watch another sport, because absolutely wasn't a robbery. It could have gone either way. I think Parker just kind of had his number after about 6 or 7 rounds. I mean, as we said of Canelo and Saunders at the weekend, he just figured him out. He timed him, he then figured out. Chisora's quite one-dimensional, but he knows how to market himself. The fact he made a bit of a stink in the post-match interviews is something that will stick in the memory, and it's kind of given a bit of a narrative to the fight. It's really sold the second fight. If they had the card again and it's a pay-per-view, then questions. That's just fucking insane.
Part of the reason why I was then not doubting myself a little bit, but even Parker himself, Parker and Andy
Lee
out and were, look, could have gone either way. Parker was like, I'm not sure whether I got it, but he was talking more about, you're away from home and it was tight, so I don't know whether I got it. I don't know whether I doubt that makes him think that he lost the fight. But afterwards, you've got Eddie Hearn saying, look, they want it. They're quite happy to have that as the next fight, and obviously their post-match interview, both of them, Parker was like, yeah, let's do it next. And the thing is about the heavyweight division right now, and the scene is, I'm sure we'll talk about Andy Ruiz in a minute, but what else is there for anyone right now? Fucking nothing. You might as well make as much money as you can. And if they can do that second fight, and it will be pay-per-view, because now they'll put on the story about, Chisora being robbed, and this is his last chance hurrah. But everyone said it, and including David Haye before fight. If Chisora hears the end of the bell at the end of the 12th round, he has not won that fight, and that's what, whether it's narrow or wide, that's what will happen, and it was proved to be.
That does nothing for Joseph Parker, though. I don't think it's heart of hearts. He doesn't want to be fighting Chisora again. He wants to kind of move up the ladder to try and secure another title fight. That's another That's another 8 to 12 week camp wasted on Derek Chisora. So it's not really. I think Chisora's happy to have the rematch, but I don't think Parker wants another fight with him. But he's got many other choices, has he?
No, because he's really highly ranked by the WBO. Parker, he has been, obviously, because he's a former champion. He's number 3, but 1 and 2 are Usyk and Joyce. So they're going to fight each other at some point, and it'll probably be for the interim title. So he's not going any higher in terms of a world title fight. He's quite high with the WBC. He's number 6. Don't see him anywhere else. No, WBA. The IBF have him at 6 as well. But because there's the spectre of Fury and Joshua fighting, all the belts are kind of like out of commission right now, and so Parker's just not going to get anywhere near a world title fight. And to be fair to him, he's coming off an 8-week camp with Andy Lee. He's only had 8 weeks with him, and he actually looked pretty good in the second half of the fight. You can only imagine, because of the age difference, because, Chisora is 38, and Parker's going to spend a lot more time with Andy Lee, then you'd kind of expect Parker to win and win again and win pretty comfortably because of that. But I did see today that Parker did actually injure his elbow early in the fight. So he might not be able to fight again straight away anyway.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, apparently he had some bone chips in his arm, and they fixed them before, but they think maybe it's gone again. So his elbow went apparently quite early in the fight, so he might not be able to fight straight away. And the longer they have to wait for a rematch, the more it suits Parker, because Chisora's 38. But that whole build up with the fucking walking second, it made me remember why people hate David Haye so much. Because I saw him on Sky Sports News. I
thought he came out of it really well, actually, David Haye. He looked absolutely exasperated.
Oh, the next day when he was, I think it was Saturday morning, and he was talking about Chisora's mum. Only Chisora's mum, Violet or Viola, I think her name was. Only she could have saved this, and we've got to fight. And I thought, oh my God, I remember why everybody hates you.
To be fair, I was watching a couple of the IFL bits where he's given an interview to Coogan, and he genuinely looks exhausted. And there's people behind him. There's part of Chisora's team carrying boxes out behind him. He's like, "What are you doing? Don't put them out there. Put them in my room. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just put them." But he looked like the bags under his eyes and all sorts. And he was like, people told me that he was unmanageable, and the last couple of months have been a nightmare. I actually thought David Haye came out of it relatively well. But yeah, look, it was, you had Shane McQuiggan coming out saying, look, we know why they're doing this. It's just to bump numbers. Don't fall for it, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's all fun and games, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, but Andy Ruiz, what do we think he's going to do? Do you think he's the second coming? Another world title reign, T?
Talking about Ortiz, aren't they, for his next fight? So that'd be interesting. I didn't see the fight. I've seen a knockdown. I just think once again he's just got to keep busy. Hopefully have a fight by September or so. A few fights this year, and then maybe see where he is next year. If Fury and Joshua eventually fight, maybe I don't see him fighting for a proper title for a long time, but he knows to keep himself busy. There's enough people in the heavyweight division to keep him busy. But he needs to fight again by autumn, I'd say. End of summer.
I mean, we said about on the last pod, there's not really much, because of the fight, who he was fighting, and there's not really much to say about him. Yeah. But I must say, if he ended up getting a fight over here against someone like, I don't know, whoever,
White
or
Dylan,
I'd go. I would go.
To go and watch him versus Dylan.
I would go to watch Andy Ruiz. Yeah, I genuinely think I would.
Depends on the cards.
Because he is different. He is a different type of heavyweight. I don't know. There is something about him that I'd be like, yeah, go on then.
God, no. I think they're gonna build him versus Wilder. Because I saw PBC post on Instagram about him and Wilder on Sunday after the fight. They posted something. Do you want to see him and Wilder? And they're both PBC fighters, and I thought, yeah, they're building it. They're going to build him to fight Wilder. Wilder will fight someone made to order for him, and then Ruiz will fight somebody, and then those two will fight on pay-per-view. End of the year, early next year. And I think Wilder smashes him to fucking bits. I think he lasts about 2 rounds. And I think Wilder's just going to knock him out. If I know he's had a long break, but so is Chris Arreola, and Chris Arreola's 40 years old. If you're having a tough fight with that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's much left for Ruiz, really. But he's with Eddie Ronaldo. Eddie Ronaldo is a good trainer, and if anyone can get him back into shape and get him back on top of the division again, it's Eddie Ronaldo, because he's a brilliant trainer. Anything else, or that will do?
I got stuff to do. I got people to speak to.
You ain't got nothing to do. All right. Well, you finish your puzzle, mate, and I'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
See you later.